Hello and welcome to VGFax's Video Game Leftovers, a show where we explore game data and promotional material to reveal content that was cut from games. Today we'll be showing you some of the more interesting leftovers from one of Nintendo's most famous and beloved franchises, The Legend of Zelda. The series began with its first title on the NES in 1986, centered around Link, the green-capped crusader. Zelda games are, more often than not, based on Link's journey to rescue the Princess Zelda, defeat the evil Ganon, and restore peace to the Kingdom of Hyrule. Most Zelda games are similar in nature with a strong mix of action, adventure, and puzzles. They've spanned every console within Nintendo's rich history and spawned many products, from cartoons to manga, and even a breakfast cereal. Zelda is by far one of Nintendo's most well-established franchises. We've chosen to begin our journey with A Link to the Past, Nintendo's first and only Zelda game to appear on the Super Nintendo. A Link to the Past returned to the top-down perspective seen in the original Legend of Zelda, after a brief experiment with a side-on perspective in Zelda 2 on the NES. The game boasted many new features compared to the previous titles, including new combat mechanics and many new items. One of these items is the Magic Mirror. The mirror allows Link to travel between two worlds, the Light World and the Dark World. In the final game, Link receives the mirror as a reward for escorting a lost old man back to his home on Death Mountain. However, it seemed at some point during development, Link would have had to present a letter to somebody in order to obtain the magic mirror. This idea stems from an unused item found in the game's code. The item is labeled as letter in the Japanese version of the game, but unlabeled in the English version. The item is reminiscent of the letter used to buy potions in the original Legend of Zelda, and occupies the same inventory space as the magic mirror in A Link to the Past, similar to how the flute in the game shares the same inventory space as the shovel. The letter uses the same icon as the map, which strengthens the idea that this letter had a similar purpose to the letter in the original Zelda on NES, as that item also shared the map's icon. Using a cheat device, it's possible to hack the letter into Link's inventory in the final game, but using the item will simply have the same effect as using the magic mirror. This shows it was never fully programmed into the game, and it's unknown why the letter was removed. There's also an unused stopwatch icon in the game's code that's similar to the magical clock in the original Legend of Zelda. The clock would be dropped by enemies when killed, and all on-screen enemies would freeze when the item is picked up. Later in the game, Link obtains the ability to stop on-screen enemies using the Quake Medallion, which would have made the stopwatch redundant and is likely the reason it was removed. Near the magic jar icons in the game's code are small and large pieces of meat, similar in appearance to the bait from the original Zelda. They only load into the game when the player is indoors, suggesting that these pieces of meat were only planned to appear inside. Their location in the code may suggest that their intended use was to restore health while inside a house or dungeon, similar to how the apples restore health while outside. In addition to unused items, there's also a fully programmed but unused enemy in the game. When inserted into the game via hacking tools, this cannon soldier will fire its cannon in the general direction of Link, and when knocked back after taking a hit, will walk back to the position they started in. Cannon soldiers look like other enemy soldiers, wearing the same blue armor, but wielding a small red cannon instead of a sword. Unlike other blue soldiers though, they take 2 hits to kill instead of 3. Why this enemy went unused is unknown, but it's possible that it was replaced by the stationary, indestructible wall turrets. An alternate helmet for the enemy soldiers is also stored in the game's code. They're present in the code alongside the body of the regular sword-wielding soldier's graphics. This placement seems to suggest that this alternate helmet would have been used by standard weaker enemies, and was likely changed because it appears much more threatening than the standard version used in the final game. It's also been suggested that they went unused because the soldier inside the armor is more visible, and Nintendo didn't like the idea of Link's target being obviously human. There's also an unused bat enemy that was never programmed into the game. Only its graphics exist, and it appears to be an enemy that would have inhabited the Dark World. Its graphics only appear in the Japanese game's code, and were removed from the game's international releases. It also has unused fireball graphics too, suggesting that it would have used a ranged attack. Now we've reached The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. This was Nintendo's first portable Zelda game, and was released on the Game Boy in 1993. Featuring a story involving dreams and musical instruments, it's one of the more bizarre entries in the Zelda timeline. The game was re-released for the Game Boy Color in 1998 as Link's Awakening DX. This remake came with some added features, including an exclusive color-based dungeon, which brought new life to an already great game. Originally, this game would have had some sort of multiplayer experience using the Game Boy link cable. This is suggested by the appearance of an image in the Hyrule Historia, Nintendo's official chronology of the Zelda series. The image is of multiple Links taking on an enemy with a note saying, "Problem! What are we gonna do about 1P mode?" Implying that Nintendo hadn't even considered the single-player game. It's possible that this multiplayer mechanic was the original basis for the 4 Swords entries later in the series. In 2 early issues of Nintendo Power, there are a number of screenshots from pre-release copies of the game. One screenshot shows a totally different world map, which actually looks like a slightly condensed version of the map from A Link to the Past. It's likely this early map was used to test the map screen during development. Another screenshot shows that the boss battle with Moldorm would have taken place in a completely different room compared to the final version of the game. Additionally, there's an image of an early inventory screen where the instruments are ordered differently. The wind marimba is replaced with a pair of cymbals, and there's also an Acorn item available. In the final version of the game, some enemies will drop the Guardian Acorn after you kill a number of them without getting hit. When the Acorn is picked up, the damage you receive will be cut in half for a set period of time. The screenshot also implies that you'd be able to collect the Acorn and use it whenever you wanted. Using an Acorn before a boss battle would greatly reduce the difficulty of the fight, and this could be why the Acorn was removed. Other inventory changes include an unused rock fragment of some kind, which is available as a prize from the Crane minigame. You also had the ability to carry more than 1 dose of Crazy Tracy's medicine, and the magic rod had a limited number of uses. That's about all we have time for today. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You should also check out VGFacts.com, where we add new trivia almost every single day. And if you're in the mood to watch something else, you can watch my video on the top 10 bees in gaming. And hey, wouldn't you know it, A Link to the Past is on there.